We're building a new industry from the ground up, promoting innovative new packaging solutions for product security, anti-counterfeiting, traceability, shelf life extension, food waste reduction, recycling, and consumer engagement. AIPIA is your information and networking hub for this new packaging revolution. We are connecting technology developers with brands around the world, creating new routes to market, speeding implementation. AIPIA is the world's biggest smart packaging ecosystem. Learn more at www.aipia.info and join us at the annual World Congress or our summits in the USA and China. Together, we will build the future of smart packaging.
You are currently here at the AIPIA Smart Packaging for Sustainability webinar with another 500 delegates, 17 panelists, 2 moderators, and me. This can be called a great success. And I must say, we at AIPIA, we are not very surprised about this success for 2 reasons. One is sustainability, of course, is an important topic. Well, I don't need anything to explain about that to you. But in the packaging industry, the materials play an important role to become more sustainable. This is without any doubt. But milk doesn't go in a paper bag, and meat in carton doesn't really contribute to a better sustainability. So we believe at AIPIA that new solutions must be found in a smarter way. Ways such as to be more efficient, a better use of data in the supply chain. For example, make recycling easier or more fun. Engage with consumers, or actually with every part of the supply chain, engage more to interact, know more about the product. Where is it? Where does it have to go to? Can we move it to different places? It's all about knowing more and using new technologies to become smarter.
Good afternoon, everybody. We seem to have some technical difficulties. Let's just see if you're experiencing the same with myself. I'm just looking at the live chat. Can you hear me, Houston? Okay, that looks good. Okay, well, look, thank you so much, Eve and team. Hopefully you can dial back on shortly and we can connect. It seems that most of you in the chat can hear me, so I'll assume that's good news, and I'll continue for now. But look, I was invited really to just give a few words, and Eve and I were going to chat through some of this, but with Eve not being here, let me perhaps improvise in the short term. But thank you for the notifications. You can hear me. So a little bit on me. My name is Stephen Casey. Steph is preferred. I work at a little organization called Nestle, based here in the York Confectionery Global R&D. And super passionate to really be part of today's journey, and look to those of you who may be joining later in the year in November. But been in the space of digital, it's a very broad brush, but digital for probably almost 2 decades now. And I was there in the early days when we all got very excited with QR codes, and before that, digital watermarks and printed electronics and playing with pianos on packs. And this goes back some time, but it has evolved. And what I'm really pleased to see and hear today is it's evolved from what predominantly has been the consumer added value in more of a promotional space, for instance, more of a space where perhaps it's deemed as a gimmick, or perhaps as it's a sales promotion. But where I'm really glad to see today, and maybe this is the first step too, I think Eve was starting to go into the need for collaboration and partnership, that consortium, which I feel this industry does need. And brands and retailers like myself and my counterparts need these consortiums and these partners on board, because many of us are still in that education phase. I think never have we seen today, with the advent of AI and all the noise in the news and what we're experiencing, have we seen such an acceleration in smart packaging. I genuinely feel today is the day that we really see a turning point here. And it's exciting. It's almost renewed my energy, and I'm sure it's renewed many people on this call. So it's an exciting journey where we may start again with some people. But I guess what's really pertinent is how we can use the technologies. And some of them are very well tried and tested in our world and have been experiencing these things, but consumers less so. But COVID has definitely accelerated the adoption of some of these digital triggers. So the learning is there, the appetite is there, and the opportunity is there. And what a better topic than today's live tables is to focus on what it can mean for sustainability, how we can finally use some of this great technology to go beyond the pack and beyond the promotion, but into something that potentially is game changing, something that could perhaps um, be picked up in recycling streams, help identify materials. If we're talking about this world of material dilution, we're quite overwhelmed within brands and retailers by the influx of all these new materials, and it is overwhelming. And how does print enable on this? How does the QR code work on this? What are the best practices? What are the technologies? What are our phones going to do in the future? All these questions, which I'm sure we'll get into deep, meaningful conversations in some of these roundtables. And if not, I implore you to do so, because we need to be honest, we need to be transparent, and we need to be working as one team almost. And there's lots of us looking at this technology, and there's lots of us looking at the use. But if I really look at the main value of where I see the technology going, and some of this is my personal opinion, some of this is just being exposed to the technologies, but we are seeing legislation, we are seeing regulation impact FMCG and our foods and our packaging, and this is going to change all the time. But these digital gateways, the technology, yes, is evolving, but fundamentals behind it is still the same. And the application in that journey is really important, particularly because that journey and that use of digital materials is going beyond people who I would call digital evangelists, the people who have been involved in this technology for some time. We need to think about, what does it mean for my marketeer? What does it mean for my insight? What does it mean for my sustainability directors? We can't be creating technology platforms that are not user friendly. They have to be. The technology has to be easily adoptable. The understanding needs to be there. And I deal with all manner of suppliers in this space and all people and experts, and we have to find a simple common language. And you also have to understand, and I'm sure we all feel this, that commodities, overheads, prices, costs, they're not going in the right direction. We're all feeling those margins. Um, so I guess with that in mind, and some of the old cost models that I had the privilege of falling off my seat seeing from some of the digital providers that may be on this call today, um, you have to be more sensitive to the environment and the world we live in today. We're looking for partnerships and collaborations, but we're also looking for you to be sensitive that we cannot invest, nor should we, in huge investments in technology platforms when they should be built into what we have in our hands predominantly today. Um, I know that's provocative. I know that sometimes is not what you want to hear, but gone are those old day cost models of percentages of sales and things like that, at least for organizations that are maybe larger than perhaps, you know, this is not an operating model we'll be interested in. But smaller players, who knows? But yeah, lots of funding, lots of things to excite us out there. And I guess, you know, digital and sustainability may become the joined up thinking word that we need, finally. But beyond the technology itself and beyond what we're doing, it's still an education for many of us, and we are still learning. I think this is the most important thing, and the ability that a lot of the digital technologies allow us to do. And some of the old thinking, where there's 360 insights, maybe become not a thing of the future, but a thing of today, where we had those original ideas that the pack could be completely connected. It could be a tin of beans, it could be a Kit Kat in my world, where we could generally interact with our consumers, our customers, and it could give us data so that we could learn what happens to that pack. What is that 360 journey? So there's lots of opportunity, and I think there's some really good tabled panels today. I will be ducking in and out of both of them, and I look forward to engagements beyond this call. I hope. I feel that this is the start of something that we need to continue the momentum. I feel that we really need to challenge ourselves, and I'd like you to challenge me and the organizations as, you know, what can we do to be better? Can we invest? Can we invest our time? Can we give you that insight that gives you a better understanding of the industry and the consumers and the customers that we have? There are many ways, and I hope that today's sessions go well. For those I do join, please do ask the questions. And yeah, I see Eve has not rejoined, so perhaps the technology monkeys and gremlins are still with us. But I wanted to save a few minutes for questions if we have. Eve has just joined. Hello, Eve.
Yes.
Are the
That's
gremlins
hi.
gone?
Yeah, I'm very sorry. It's always a nightmare to talk about technology and then the technology fails. But I'm back. If it fails again, my good friend Andrew is in another office with another internet connection, and if it fails, then he will take over from me. Stefan, thank you very much for your introduction. It is always, and we discussed this, important that companies of your size give well your view and your ideas on how what technologies and which technologies and how technologies can influence actually your business. It is important because the smart packaging industry, it is of course already 10, 15 years old industry, and the last 2, 3 years is going really fast. But the technology providers in this industry always need influence and ideas from well, people and companies like you. So I'm very happy you joined us. If there are any questions in this field, then from anyone of the audience, please feel free to do so. Stefan, you will be backstage on site for questions. And I want to thank you very much for your contribution to this. I want to explain a little bit how we're going to do this today, because well, we have 3 panels with 3 different topics, and which means we have 16 speakers in total, which means we cannot go very deep into all the topics. If you have any questions and there's no time enough, please feel free to send me a mail on, well, you all know where to find us on our website. If you like to get in contact with one of the panelists or one of the speakers, or you need more information on a specific topic, please feel free to drop me a mail on that, and then we will make that happen. First of all, I want to thank our partners at AWA to make this event happen. They did a fantastic job, and that's a big thanks to them, because that's why this webinar is a big success. And also thanks already to our two moderators, Douglas Hutt and Marcel van Rossum, for their role in managing the two panels. Okay, we have 3 panels. I do 4, but it's 3 panels. One panel, the first panel is about packaging waste and recycling. I will be there to manage that. Then the second panel is regarding food waste, that will be managed by Douglas Hutt. And last panel is supply chain efficiency, that will be managed by Marcel van Rossum. So let's start with the first panel. Again, we have 30 minutes per panel, and so we can't go too deep, but please feel free if you have any questions going on in the panel, please feel free to ask them here. I see the panelists are joining me, which is very good. Let's make the first round and the introduction. We prepared this a bit, so we first go to Todd from Lava. Please, Todd, go ahead.
Hi there. Can you all hear me? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good morning from Los Angeles, where thanks to all of you, I got to see the sunrise for the first time in a very long time, as it's just about 6:15 here. I'm Todd Gimbel. I am with Lava. Very briefly, I've had a long career in public affairs and sustainability with companies that make products from Mondelez to Levi's to Herbalife Nutrition. I also developed and oversaw the production of Herbalife's ESG program from scratch. So I've had a good experience in understanding a lot of the issues we're talking about today before I joined Lava. And Yves and Steph said some great stuff, a lot of which that I would echo. But basically, when it comes to packaging waste, it continues to be an issue. It has been for some time. While the types of materials that are being used now are more recycled and recyclable, and packaging has been made more streamlined over the years, the issue is that somebody already raised this morning that, products still need to be in some kind of packaging for transport, safety, and other valid reasons. As manufacturers, distributors, and retailers have gotten better, they are aware that they have access to more materials that are better than what they had before. But fact is that 55 to 60% of all packaging material still ends up in landfills and incinerators, which is not good. And governments continue to try to legislate and regulate, but compliance is not so simple. There are many possible solutions we're going to talk about today, but one thing for sure is that everyone who's part of the life cycle has a role to play, but it's hard to get all those stakeholders involved, from manufacturers to retailers to consumers. I think, as Steph mentioned, solutions need to be comprehensive and applicable at every stage of the product packaging life cycle, from cradle to grave, or better yet, from cradle to cradle or next life. And just briefly, and we'll talk more about it, Lava is an Australian-born global company that provides a number of connected, integrated packaging solutions with tech that we will talk about as we move forward. So back to you, Yves. Hopefully I didn't talk too long here. And you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I was muted. I don't know. Thank you very much, Todd. I try again. I was muted. Sorry. We know you well. We know Lava well. We know your role and your influence in these aspects of sustainability. I have already one question for you, which I come back later. The second panelist is Paul from Experience is Everything. So Paul, please give us your view.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice to see you all. Experience is Everything is a business that's been about in the 6 or 7 years working in the connected packaging space. We have a very simple view about sustainability, which is no matter what the wonderful supply side initiatives or the demanding legislation or the fantastic technologies that exist, if we can't leverage consumers to get them engaged, all of those initiatives will fail. And that we believe that the single best place to initiate engagement with consumers around sustainability is from the packaging itself, and that is the most cost-effective place to start, in the sense it's an asset you already own. It's the most intimate place to the problem in many cases, because it is on the product and the packaging in relation to what's inside the packaging. As it means you don't have to have a media cost to talk about your innovations, and it gives consumers direct digital access to action. So we think if you're not using your packaging to talk about sustainability, it's a big mistake. An example, and it's not really to throw stones. If you look at the Coca-Cola packaging where it says "Recycle Me" on it, there is no digital connection, which we believe is a mistake. We believe that their ambition to be recycled and for people to understand their recycling footprint would be so much better leveraged by a digital connection than anything else. So our view is that the first base is to make a digital connection. And then the next two things we would say to people is that make that sure that is creative and engaging. So use creative tech. Don't just send people to pages on your website, your .com. Use creativity to engage people, like AR and VR and all of those things. And then finally, the thing we encourage people to understand is with GS1 Sunrise and digital passports, the requirement will be to build an information infrastructure across all of your supply chain at a SKU level. And that is a complicated task that goes from data to design to physical to digital and back again. So thinking hard about that ecosystem is a thing that we spend quite a lot of time doing, and we think is important for everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Yeah, interesting, of course. You and I agree with that. Of course, you put a big, how you say, heavy aspect on that the role of the consumer. So we go to the next one, which is Gemma. Gemma is a little bit panicking because her camera doesn't work. But
yes.
Can we see you?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm really sorry about this. My camera sort of on my laptop's working, but it's not allowing me to turn it on here. So there's a technical issue that's being looked into. But you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hopefully it will be rectified in a second. But yes, I'm Gemma from Peasy, and we are a tool for ongoing behaviour change, all around education and gamification and rewards. And everything to do with everything around sustainability. So I actually put together a slide. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it or not. So I just wanted to sort of really talk quickly about why people should care about the need for behaviour change. So the percentage of household waste that is recyclable is about 80%, but only about 45% of UK households do recycle. So obviously there's a huge gap that needs to be bridged, and that's the case, globally. We're a global company. And I just wanted to give one example of one waste stream. I mean, obviously there's many waste streams and all of them need massive sort of improvements in the behaviours that people do with their recycling. But the example I've used is glass. So the percentage of UK households that actually do recycle their glass waste is 74%. So it sounds relatively promising, even though there's some improvements needed. But just to sort of put that into context with the actual volume that we're talking about, the glass that isn't recycled, just in the UK alone, equates to 14 million pieces of glass containers going to landfill every single day. So obviously there's a huge need to change behaviours. And also, I mean, in the glass example, it's completely unnecessary. I mean, that's 28 billion glass bottles and jars in landfill every year, where actually glass is completely sort of endlessly recyclable, and it never suffers from loss of quality or usability. But it does take about 4,000 years for each glass bottle product to decompose. So clearly there's a huge need for education and behaviour change. Yeah, and that's what we're all about here at PZ.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gemma. Well, you were very clear. So unfortunately, without camera, that maybe will solve that. But your message was extremely clear.
Well, that's good.
And it all comes to well, a better use, a better connection with the consumer.
Yes.
And to educate people more better, and whereby technology plays, of course, an important role.
Absolutely, and in an ungamified way as well, because it's not great for people to be preached at for that kind of thing. People don't respond, so it's all very much the carrot, not the stick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, excellent. So we go to Howard from Intelligent Material. Howard Bell, you are there. We know you well. Please go ahead. Give us your vision, please.
If I have a very big vision, I'm going to share with you. First, I'd like to thank you for having me on your panel and this wonderful discussion, and all the people that joined here. Intelligent Material is a research and development company that primarily does research on a rare earth-based material. I've been doing it since I was 14. I'm 54. If you cut me, I bleed rare earth. We're located in the RCA building where the color television was invented. And we produce our materials here. And just, the R&D company and the thought of R&D is, why do I put my pants on in the morning? And, our idea is that the world's a giant puzzle, and, the idea of clean air, clean water, and longevity, all of these things are kind of possible. And we're all looking for pieces to the puzzle. Materials are a very big piece to the puzzle. When you think about Bronze Age, Iron Age, this is one or two words that describe a swath of history. You look at 1980 Fortune, 500, and the top 28 out of 30 companies are either pumping oil out of ground or producing a machine that runs of oil. And so, we're kind of coming out of the petroleum age, kind of into the information age. And, there's a lot of plastic around, a lot of other things around that kind of needs to be managed. It's not going anywhere. And so the idea of putting materials that provide information on a parts per billion level into these plastics and being able to identify them, identify the source of the plastic, identify the material post-plastic is completely feasible. Right now, when you go to a airport, you'll pull out your license. The guy will check if that lights up, red or some color. Hey, that license is real. You also have these materials in your money when you authenticate them with some UV light or some other light. But there's no reason why these materials can't make it into the actual products and recycling content to be able to be quantified and identified. And I think one of the main issues is, I pick up a bottle and it says, okay, 30% recycled content. There's really no way for a consumer to be able to verify this information other than trust what it says on the label. And, Hamilton says that the world's built on self-interest, and, there's self-interest in putting 29% instead of 30% getting away with it. And so the idea of to be able to authenticate and to validate both on a consumer level and on a regulatory level, I think has a lot of value. And all the iPhones now have a little infrared emitter. They have all these various emitters that can distinguish faces and do various things. And there's no reason why I can't go into a bottle and say, hey, this thing is made of this and this, and identify. Those are my
very interesting.
Those are my few cents.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. We know, of course, several initiatives in this area already in the past. The technology is going so fast that new ways to separate or to identify materials from the others are coming up, which is really interesting technologies. So we go to Ivan from Recycler. Well, we know you.
Frozen.
So, Ivan, give us your view.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here presenting. I'm Ivan, I'm the CEO of this startup based in Spain, in Mallorca, called Recycler. Mainly what we do is collect information about the globe, around the globe, about how everything is collected. So basically how you need to dispose your item for recycling, how you sort everything, and we deliver this service through a platform to packaging producers, brand owners, retailers, etc. I will try to connect the dots here with the other panelists. Mainly, I see a very high demand on the market, on consumers, that they want to live more sustainable, they want materials, packaging more sustainable, better products, more sustainable, etc. Be able to validate the claims that are claimed in the packaging or in the websites. But at the end, this is a very small amount of consumers that want that. So basically what we do at Recycler is we use recycling as a hook for doing that. Why? Because recycling, we just recycle in the world less than 25% of the waste we produce. If we talk about plastic packaging, for example, in Europe, is less than 50%. So we will not be able to achieve the objectives of the European Union for next year on that it's 0.5% of the plastic waste. So basically, and this is the main reason, is why is that? Is mainly because consumers, they still face doubts when they recycle. And some solutions that they are on the market is about putting an icon on the product or some information, yes, recycle me or it's recyclable. But most of them, they don't know how to do it. They don't know, not just that the action is recyclable or not. Do I need to rinse it? Do I need to crash it? Or how do I use this collection point? So this is the information we deliver to the consumers, and also try to overcome with intelligent or connected packaging what a physical product, a label, goes and can deliver to the consumer. So basically, we create a hook that daily the consumer can extract information about how to properly do that, and also gamify the whole experience and be more funnier in a way, or more engaging. So basically, consumers will like, and I can also show you information about how is that, will be more engaged into interacting with this digital and connected packaging, and then know more about the product, know more about the packaging, know more everything about we are talking right now.
Fantastic, Ivan. Thank you very much. Very clear. So I actually, there is a question which can be replied to all the panelists, because all of you said, all of you mentioned in your description that the engagement of consumers is a very important aspect of it. And that, I think that was mentioned by Paul or Todd, that you have to involve all the stakeholders of the supply chain if you want to become more sustainable. My question is, and every of you can raise your hand to answer, what, let's say, the last 2 years, when all these new technologies come, what is there already a sort of result to be seen that those technologies do increase a more sustainable, to be more sustainable, or at what phase are we at this moment in being more sustainable? Yes, Todd?
Sure. I think we are down the road, and some of the tech that you're hearing about today is a big part of that. At Lava, we have a smart print that can go on a product, on packaging. It's cell phone scannable, and it is unique and serialized to that specific product. So it's not by SKU, it's by product itself. So you can trace from manufacturer to retailer to recycling center to consumer the journey of that piece of plastic or that bottle or whatever the smart print is on. And what we found is that at each stage of the way, each stakeholder has a different thing to incentivize them to be using the tech. So the manufacturer obviously is using it so they can kind of see the whole journey of it and maybe comply with regulations or legislation. Retailers may want to do it so that they can show that they're sending what they pull off of products or what they get back to recycling centers, et cetera. And then with consumers, to Gemma's point and others, they can scan it. It can be gamified. They can be incentivized to say, take this back to your recycling center and you win a credit towards your next purchase. So there's all sorts of ways that the smart print can be utilized to engage with the different stakeholders in a way that makes sense to them throughout the journey. And all the information using EI and tech is stored in the cloud, and everyone who needs to can have access to that along the journey of that. And it's starting to happen, and it's starting to show some good results.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a real win-win for everybody because, in the case of recycling, the education piece is about putting that right packaging into the right recycling stream. But then there's so much more to it, like you say, with sort of encouraging repeat spend, what happens to the product once it leaves the shop, and how long's the shelf life at somebody's home with each individual product. There's so much data behind the QR code, which, a really simple process that it's encouraging people to do those right things. There's so much more to it that's of value.
Paul, I have a question on this. What is necessary to speed up this process?
I think that that increasing the consumer's access to this information and these programs is the first thing to speed things up. The second thing is to make them more interesting, more creatively interesting, more engaged with the consumer's world rather than simply with ours. Yeah. And then the third one is to have a mutual sort of reward system. Anybody who knows anything about the work that goes on in China around sustainability and goes on through WeChat and the communities of sustainability that are there with reward systems that are related to sustainability, in line with lots of government programs there, sees a sort of mass engagement with digital accounts and digital participation and digital reward infrastructures. And obviously some people will know the LEAP initiatives of Unilever in Canada about sort of commercializing sustainability via passing people on across e-com categories within the sustainability framework of that business. So there's quite a lot of evidence already that consumers, given the opportunity to engage, either with an immediate point of contact, with creative interest, and then with a value relationship over time, will engage at mass scale. And if anybody wants to review China at some point, we've got sort of lots of case studies about how it all works there under the government aegis and with the support of WeChat.
Yeah. Ivan, you raised your hands on the same question.
So,
there is one question, and maybe that goes also to you. I mean, a few years ago, we were all talking about blockchain. Nowadays, we're all talking about artificial intelligence, which is the new thing. Is AI going to play a role in this?
I think AI is right now, if we talk about recycling, is more focused on the sorting facilities, how to identify these kind of things. For example, we are exploring AI for digital deposit and refund systems. Why? Because this is an experience we did with the Welsh government last year in summer, where we implemented the digital DRS, that the cost of it is a fraction of a conventional DRS. And the way to control consumers to avoid fraud, because, for example, we were using the phone and curbside collection where there's no machine to validate what something is disposing in a curbside bin. We could control in that environment fraud, for example, or weird activities of users. But for example, if you implement this at a national scale, then you need something to avoid this fraud or potential fraud. And then this AI can work on that, can easily spot these activities, these behaviors of consumers that are doing weird things. And of course, this will be a way to do that. So if we use technology to motivate consumers to recycle more via deposits, via rewards, whatever, we can use AI to control and kind of avoid the fraud by using these systems.
Okay, any other of the panelists want to react to that? Okay, so that's a very interesting one. Now, I remember when we started AIPIA, we are, always talking about, we're going to scan the products, and then we know who's buying what and where and when. And then there was always this big reaction, but privacy, and nobody will do that, and this is private information. The question to the panel is, how are we going, in what way, on the most smart way, are we going to use this data, which is generated at, for example, the retailer? How can we use this data in a better way to do more things with it than only knowing who's buying what and when?
So if I may jump in, so for example, we have experience with Carrefour in Spain, major retailer, French retailer. Mainly what we do is everything is designed by default as anonymous. So we know an ID of the user, so we are not able to track someone's activity and identify this person. So some people just say, hey, I want to delete my account. So normally we ask them to tell us something because we are not able to identify. So I think the key question here is when you design the technology or the solution where you use this technology, have privacy in your mind. And for example, with this digital DRS solution we implemented, and the next one we are doing, basically everything is a system that is anonymous, that we will know what's being purchased in a shop, not by identifying the consumer or the purchaser, but the purchase itself. And this is something that is very interesting because you don't identify a person, you identify an action or an event. So basically having a blockchain in this case, or distributed ledger technologies on sharing information and which information you can share without compromising privacy, ownership, and IP, for example. This is something that we do, and it's very effective. And normally GDPR or privacy is not an issue.
Okay, Paul, can you?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I would just add briefly that agree with what Ivan said. The tech is used to basically tell you where the material or product is, so where it was scanned, not who scanned it. So you can later potentially have voluntarily consumers engage, but they're engaging more with the product and the brand than with the tech itself. So we can tell you it was purchased at this, it was manufactured here it ended up at Carrefour, and here it was scanned again as it went to the recycler, and we have the geo tags to know where that is, and that doesn't compromise any privacy information, but it certainly gives you the life cycle of where that piece of plastic or that bottle is.
Yeah, Paul, you work with a lot of brands in this field. I mean, I know there's always the discussion when there is data generated that a company wants or saying, okay, we own this data and nobody can touch it. How do you see it? This is one, and two is what is the role of the retailers in this, because they seem to be very protective as well.
I think everybody's protective of data. You're absolutely right. I mean, our view is that we're moving rapidly to a world not of data capture, but of invitations to data exchange and to positive data exchange. And sustainability is a classic category for that. It will always be a coalition of the willing and an invitation to engage, actively with programs. So our view of the data capture process of this should be that we should always energetically pursue opt-in methods of data capture, and that in actual fact connected packaging in our experience is orders of magnitude more effective in terms of data invitation exchange than any other channel, because it's a product that you've bought from a brand that you like with a pack that is in use, that you're actively engaging with at the point of digital connection. So the ability to get people to opt in now using creative tools and persuasive tools and communication is really, really high. And but we believe in a model of not data capture, but data invitation.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my hand up, but virtually my hand up. Yes, it's exactly the same with us. I mean, with the sort of communicating with consumers, it's very much an opt-in sort of, you know, as I said before, rewarding and sort of beneficial to them to engage. And then with AI, you know, it's really, obviously it's the sort of the type of recycling that we're focusing on more rather than the people that are sort of doing the recycling. So with the AI, we'll be able to look at exactly what that product is, you know, how much plastic is within a specific bottle, and all of the real sort of data capture will be on those products and what's happening with it.
Yeah, very clear. There is a question to you from the audience, Gemma, actually 2 questions. One is, what will motivate the brand owners to act where solutions drive an increase in net cost systems-wide? So what is the benefit for brand owners? That question. And 2 is data exchange. Yes, but doesn't it require standardization?
Well, in terms of what's in it for the brand, it's, you know, it's very much, you know, a win-win situation, because it's all about sort of, you know, on the term, in the way of brands offering rewards or incentives after those good behaviours are done with the correct recycling. It's a perfect opportunity for a brand to be speaking to a consumer literally at the point that they need to replace that product, because obviously they're, you know, disposing of it. And so whether that's talking to your existing customers or your competitors, then you're sort of speaking to them at that exact right time and getting them to either repurchase or purchase, but create brand loyalty. And also having the sort of environmentally aware sort of kudos behind them. You know, brands and consumers are ever more wanting to work or, you know, buy from brands that have that, you know, those green credentials behind them. So it's a billboard really for a brand to be able to advertise all of that, whilst at the same time helping to hit their ESG targets and, you know, doing all of those right things for the sustainability side as well. So there's really no reason for brands not to engage. And then, sorry, what was the second question?
Standardization.
Standardization in terms of what type of
if one brand uses one way to get data, should another brand not use the same?
The far observation across all of our client base is that businesses have different priorities about the sort of data they believe to be commercially valuable. Yeah, some people are trying to create large data profiles of consumer targets for retargeting within media. Some people are looking to, you know, capture key data triggers. Some people are simply trying to capture things like email addresses, you know, on an opt-in basis where they can create an open communication channel over time. No. There will be certain sort of, you know, we have a model for data capture that we think is sufficient, but we've never seen a client literally agree with any other client about what that is. The corporations specify, and even within that, the brands specify. So some businesses have highly sustainable brands, and others of their brands are mainstream. Look at any of the big corporates, and that's what it looks like.
And in terms of standardization with sort of, you know, the recycling side of it, it's, you know, obviously if it's a cardboard box, it can or be recycled, and that's where you need what kind of bin you need to put it in. And that's really the sort of, you know, like with the OPRL labeling, it gives you the information on what that product needs to be done, you know, how it needs to be disposed of. And so that, you know, hopefully should be standardized across brands in terms of what their packaging is, you know, made of, and what the messaging would be.
Howard. Oh, you're muted, Howard.
Material, we definitely feel standardization can be achieved through technology. And so, you know, right now I pick up this product here. There's a barcode on it. This barcode is standardized, you know, along all suppliers. They can't agree on something, but they did agree on this, that when a consumer picks this up or somebody's putting this on a store shelf, that we're going to do this particular barcode. You know, Denso invented a barcode in Japan, the QR code, which also provides a lot of information. And this, you know, barcode is, you know, QR code is kind of getting standardized. We now move into, you know, near field communications, various RFID chips. These things are getting standardized across the board and being accepted by consumers and everything else. And so the idea of putting barcodes inside of actual products that can be identified and standardized at a parts per million and a parts per billion level across the board is completely feasible. You know, if we can agree on this barcode, why can't we agree on something that could be standardized across plastic?
And is then regulation going to play a role, or should this be done among us?
Yeah, unfortunately, until California does something, nobody else does anything, you know. And so, you know, you got to convince the liberals in California that, you know, this is a good idea, then they implement that, and then everybody else kind of follows, you know, 5-10 years down the line. And so, you know, I think without somebody telling somebody that they have to do it, it's going to be very hard to actually, you know, do it. But, you know, if there's incentives across the board, as Ivan said, to return the stuff and it's authenticated and it's yours, you get the money back. You know, I think it's completely feasible.
Yeah.
And by the way, sitting here in liberal California, where I am, you know, I can tell you that, you know, what's evolving is we've got the barcodes, we've got the QR codes, but now we've taken it to the next level because those aren't necessarily serialized. They're not necessarily down to the individual product. They're, you know, this cup would have a barcode on it that maybe a million other cups just like this have on it. So having the tech like we have to specifically identify this cup will allow then to track in conjunction with barcodes and with QR codes where it goes and where it lands. And that also has, you know, a big effect on corporations being able to validate where their products and where their plastics and other things end up. And that helps them to avoid greenwashing claims and a whole bunch of other things. So as we get more tech and can get down to where is this specific cup at, that's going to be a way to really try to validate a lot of this stuff as opposed to just a general code.
Have I got time to quickly say one thing as well? I mean, with the QR code,
we have 1 minute.
We can you know, take that QR code off the packaging and put it onto the sort of bin itself, the recycling bin, and turn that into a smart bin. So same technology, but the bin itself telling you this is what goes here and this is what needs to go in this bin. And that segregates the waste right from the very beginning without having to go to the back end and separate it and pay for it or send it to landfill. So you can be really creative with QR codes, not just on pack, but on the bins itself, which is great for like hotels, QSRs, lots of different businesses.
And I think now is the best time to do that. So ES1 has the Sunrise 2027, where they want to substitute barcodes to 2D codes, so mainly connected packaging on the rise. So it will be kind of forced by the industry and already standardized. Also for exchanging data, we have EPCIS to exchange this data. So standards will play a big role on that. In the other sense of standardization, as Gemma was saying, and I think the chat someone was saying that, so even OPRL, so recycling labels that is going to be harmonized in the UK and also in Europe. Our data suggests that consumers that they don't recycle, they don't use these recycling labels. So we need to use technology, use active and intelligent packaging to motivate consumers that don't recycle to recycle more, because they are more effective and then they interact more with the product itself. So now is the best moment.
Yeah. There is a good remark, of course, from Felix in the audience. He said, and he's right, the EU packaging waste regulation, which is coming or which is already nearly valid, is of course going to play an important role on how we manage our packaging waste. But as I started at the beginning, milk doesn't go in a paper bag. So we definitely believe that we need, and this is up to the smart packaging industry, to find smarter solutions to become more sustainable. I'm unfortunately have to close this panel, which was really interesting. Lots of questions and remarks from the audience. It's also recorded for everyone, so to look it back. I want to thank Todd, Paul, Ivan, Howard, and Gemma very much for their participation. Really interesting. Recycling, consumer engagement, smarter materials, knowing more about the material, knowing more about the consumer and every stakeholder in the supply chain is key. This is what we learned. And I have the feeling, and that's also what mentioned in this panel, technologies are going fast and we are going the right way. So again, the panelists, thank you very much. We are going slowly over to the next panel, which is about food waste. Again, at my opening, which my internet connection didn't really work well with me, I mentioned the Smart Food Chain initiative from AIPIA. This is all about minimize waste in food supply. Please go to our website and go to projects. There you will find all the information on this consortium. We do need more input. So that's all about food waste. We have found Douglas Hutt available to manage this panel about food waste. We know Douglas for many years. He has a fantastic career in the packaging industry on the highest level, and he's also a very nice guy. So Douglas, I give it to you. I stay a little bit in the background, and let's talk about food waste. Douglas, there you go.
Okay. Well, first of all, can you hear me? Everybody can see me and hear me. Is that all okay? Yes, we've got a nodding head from Moody. Excellent, brilliant. Right, so listen, I want to change tack a little bit now and talk about food waste. We're going to have a slightly different approach on this session where I'm going to introduce each of the panelists, and each of those panelists is going to talk a little bit about the challenges around food waste and their technology solutions and how they can build. Yesterday was World Stop Food Day, and the UN calls food waste a global tragedy, with over a third of globally produced food that's either lost or wasted each year. And household waste has a significant impact on this, with over 1 billion meals thrown away each day. That's each day. And that food waste accounts for 8% of global carbon emissions. So it's affecting us all. And I'm really fortunate, and I think I'm the lucky one here today to have 5 experts really spanning the globe here. So I want to introduce Moody Solomon from Ripe Labs in the US. I've also got JJ McAuliffe from Copper Protec in Chile, Brendan Rice from Synoptica Technologies in Ireland, Courtney Cook from Evidence in the US, and through time and space we have Greg Calvert from Fresh Chain, who is already in our Saturday morning and probably the one who can complain the most about what time it is around the world, being from Australia. So as I say, in this segment, each of the panelists are going to provide the insights on food waste problems and what they present and how their technologies and solutions can positively impact the food waste. We will go straight into the panelists and they will present, and then the next person will present straight after them in sequence. And at the end, then we'll have a Q&A session once all of them have concluded. So without further ado, I want to introduce Moody Solomon from Ripe Labs in the US. Moody is a very experienced entrepreneur and startup founder with many years experience across medical devices, biotech, and agricultural technology industries. He's currently leading and developing a team commercially in biomimicry solutions to combat food waste safely and sustainably. So Moody, if I can hand over to you to start with, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. Thank you, Eve, and it's a pleasure to be here. Doug, can you share your screen? It seems like I cannot share mine. If you'd like to share my presentation, that'd be great.
Yeah, just let me do that for a second, Moody. Whilst you just start your introduction, let me just get that for you.
Sure, yeah. So again, my name is Moody Solomon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ripe Labs. And our mission at Ripe Labs is to simply put an end to food waste. Once we get the presentation up and running here, I'm really going to focus on one innovative way to tackle this issue of food waste. And it's primarily by going after distributors and retailers as our primary target customers and the primary target customer for this type of technology. And so, Doug, once you have the slides pulled up, I can.
Just bear with me, Moody. I'm just trying to get it.
No problem.
Doing this. Yes, we are clearly having the technology problems today. Moody, keep talking from your slides if you would, and then I will try and bring that up as you're talking through. Okay.
No problem. Yeah. So if you could imagine with me here, just to kind of put the quantify the issue at hand, every minute we're wasting enough food to feed over 1 million people. And so literally over the next 30 minutes, we're going to have wasted enough food to feed over 30 million people. And that very same food waste ends up in landfills, releasing tens of thousands of metric tons of greenhouse gases. And especially with food waste being methane gas emissions, those are about 80 times as potent as CO2. And it's due to the fact that we have an unbelievably inefficient food supply chain system where the losses are experienced all across the supply chain, from the farm all the way down to the consumer. So at every stage, we're experiencing that food waste amounting to over $2.6 trillion in losses, or sorry, $1 billion in losses every year. These losses are experienced, of course, to all food groups, but primarily fresh fruits and vegetables is where you typically see the highest wastage rates. And so this is where I'm really going to focus the talk about, at least for this technology. And so one of the things that we've learned that I typically like to highlight is to have a meaningful impact, you have to come up with a solution that is very easy to use, can be applied anywhere across the supply chain, scalable and affordable, so that the largest distributors and growers in the world can adopt this technology down to the smallest smallholder farmer. And what we've actually been able to do, and the technology that I was going to highlight, is a plant-based bioactive technology. So it's basically a formulation that you can apply to almost any surface, including stickers, and you can simply take one of the stickers that's coated with this bioactive formulation, apply it to a fruit or a package of the fruit. The bioactive gets released and prevents premature rotting by tackling the fungal strains that are impacting that particular type of produce. And so this is typically the part in the presentation where I have a time-lapse video showing the effect of that sticker, which looks actually quite astonishing. And so much so that it almost looks like magic. How can you add a sticker to a fruit or to a package of fruit and protect that entire package of fruit and extend the shelf life? And so to explain that technology a little bit further, what we've done is we've actually turned to plants. So plants have been producing these natural, volatile compounds, secondary metabolites, to protect themselves at a distance for millions of years. Let's say, for example, you walk by a lavender plant and you can smell the lavender at a distance. That's a secondary metabolite that the plant is releasing that has a variety of attributes, but one key attribute is that it has antifungal properties to it. So what microbiologists and plant physiologists can do is they can identify which of these compounds are going to be most effective against certain fungal strains that impact the fresh produce. Then the material scientists and chemical engineers will develop matrices to encapsulate these compounds and extend release, control their release rate, thus giving us this bioactive formulation that can be applied to a sticker, for example. And therefore, what we've essentially done and the technology that's available now in the market is biomimicking how plants have been able to protect themselves at a distance for millions of years to now extend the shelf life of fresh produce. And again, this technology is primarily targeted at distributors and packing houses, as well as retailers that are vertically integrated and that can go back up the supply chain to apply the technology. So apologies for the technical difficulties. I usually have a few exciting slides to show all this and illustrate all this, but I'm going to look forward to the questions. And again, a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Moody, apologies for the technical difficulties there. We do have the slide, and we'll be able to share that to everybody. But apologies for that. So we'll get that sorted out as we go along. Thanks very much, Moody. I appreciate you doing that. Next, I want to introduce JJ McAuliffe from Coppertech Pro in Chile. JJ is a marketing manager for Coppertech. Copper Pro Tech, based out of Santiago, with many years of experience in domestic and international food production. So, JJ, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and I think I am the only one from Latin America, so that makes me proud. Moody was talking about the issue of food waste, about fruits and vegetables. I am going to talk about specifically about meat-based products. 20% of the meat products end up wasted. That is more than 60 million tons annually, the equivalent to 80 million cows. So you can see there are crazy numbers, and it's a big issue. The problem with meat-based products is that they represent only 4.5 of the food wastage volume, but more than 21 of the global food waste footprint. This meat, when it ends up in landfills, they liberate methane. And as Moody mentioned, this gas is several times worse than CEO regarding global warming. Most meat waste occurs at the distribution and consumption level, where the highest carbon footprint is found, because it adds all the previous phases. And mostly this happens in developed countries, where most of the meat consumptions occurs. So that's why you have this issue with meat-based products. Also, you have other resources that they are being applied to the meat production, like land, water, energy, and all the refrigeration you need to this type of foods. So when you waste 1 kilogram of meat, it represents an issue a lot times higher. If all food wastage were a country, it would be the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, behind China and USA. This is and all these where meat-based products have a significant role, and this is why in Copper Protect we have been working specifically to reduce meat-based product waste. And what we are working on, and what are the type of technologies they can be used for reduction on this type of products? A scalable solution are biotechnology in the form of microparticles applied to the packaging. Biotechnology is a fancy word to say technology comes from biology. This type of microparticles, the cool thing that they are 100% natural materials. They can be from copper, zinc, silver, and other minerals and other composites. They naturally reduce the proliferation of the bacteria responsible for food spoilage through a steady ion liberation. The ions from copper and zinc will destroy the bacteria that they are present in the food, keeping the growth of the bacteria down. So it will add more days to the shelf life of this type of product. The cool thing about this biotechnology is that it's effective across different temperature and pH levels. This is very important because the same bacteria that are responsible of the food spoilage, they change the pH of the food. So you need technologies that they can act at different stages of the spoilage. And also for copper, they have a high bacteriostatic properties for a wide spectrum of bacteria. They can reduce they have a log 3 reduction of this type of bacteria, so keeping the products fresh for longer. And how these type of technologies are applied? In the case of Cover Protect, we use a resin. It could be a PE or PP resin, where it is a carrier for the copper microparticles. In our case, they are 100% copper and they are patented. These master batch are being applied in the extrusion process in the layer that is going to be in contact with the meat or the meat-based product. And the result is a smart packaging that extends shelf life and ensures organoleptic quality. Because it's in a PE or PP resin, it's very versatile. It can be added to barrier film, shrink bags, pouch, trays, and more. And we say that the result is a smart packaging because this type of microparticles, they will react with the environment they are in. So if you have a increase in temperature or humidity, so there are better conditions for bacteria to grow. This type of microparticle will liberate more copper ions, so they will help to keep the bacteria growth lower. So in our case, we have done many exhaustive tests with different types of products. And here you can see some results for beef, where we are adding 30 more days, for sausages 30 more days, actually doubling the shelf life. Sliced ham 30 more days, ground meat 20 more days, and so you can see that this type of technology are super effective. Here I'm going to give you a specific example for pork ham, sliced pork ham, where you can see how the two growth of bacteria separates. The black line is the bacteria growth for regular packaging, and the green line is for copper protect packaging. As you can see, the regular package lasts, with the regular package, the sliced ham lasts roughly 50 days, but with our biotechnology, or this type of biotechnology, the product can last until 90 days. And in the graph of the right, you can see here that this is a shelf life test without a cold chain interruption. Here we took the ham 4 hours at 15 Celsius degrees, and you can see the black
JJ,
line. Yeah,
we need to kind of wrap up and move along, and we can get to some of the additional stuff, if that's okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Listen, I apologize for interrupting you there. Hopefully we've got some of the technical issues with slides sorted on that. Next up, we have Brendan Rice from Synoptica Technologies in Ireland. Brendan has worked in the global food industry for over 20 years in the commercial disciplines of innovation, marketing, and sales. He's now tackling food waste and has co-founded Synoptica Technologies, which is a spin-out of Trinity College in Dublin. And his claim to fame is that he led the team that developed and launched the world's first bread loaf baked without a crust. So for those of you interested in interesting facts, there we are. Brendan, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Doug. Can you hear me okay?
You can, and we can see your presentation. Brilliant.
Excellent. I just need to figure out now how to put it onto full screen. But look, rather than dwell on that, I'm going to jump into, firstly, the problem that we're trying to solve. I'll describe then briefly how our tech works, and conclude at the end with the benefits that our customers are sharing with us in terms of how they see we can help. So over half of the world's fresh food is packed in modified atmosphere packaging. For some reason, Doug, I'm not sure if these slides don't seem to be moving on.
Try and just click onto presentation mode, and then press the down arrow, see if that works. Sophie presentation, or just quickly, because we've just got the 5 minutes. If not, sure. Brendan, talk to them. Okay.
Let's try that again. Okay. Is that coming up?
Yes, it is. You're on your 50% page now.
Yeah. So I'm not sure this is going to, unfortunately, I'm not sure this is going to work. But anyway, I'll try. So most people, I'm sure, on the call know what modified atmosphere is, but just for those who don't, it's where the food is sealed into a pack with an atmosphere that helps to keep the food fresher for longer. But unfortunately, this type of packaging, even though it goes across many different categories in the supermarket, has one major challenge, and that is and it's the number one source of customer complaints around it, which is that it goes off before date. So in other words, consumers are finding that when they go to eat the food, it has either changed color or it smells really bad, or both. The major cause of this is the fact that the packs have failed, or as the industry calls them, they're leakers. Our research has identified that this is costing global retailers over 29 billion euro a year in lost sales, and that doesn't take into account the cost to their brand reputations of the complaints that it generates from customers. So to solve this problem, we've created a novel oxygen sensor for modified atmosphere packaging. The sensor is formed from a food-safe ink that we print onto the underside of the film. It's excited by ultraviolet light, and it's read by computer vision, either a machine vision system on the end of a packing line or a handheld device. The sensor not only indicates the presence or absence of oxygen, but it's able to identify the precise amount of oxygen in the pack. This has three sort of main features to it. It can allow you to identify these failed packs. It can provide condition data throughout the supply chain, and that data then can be used for data analytics in terms of trying to optimize the supply chain at any point. The first place that we'll start in terms of trying to address the problem of food waste caused by this will be to remove leakers at the point of packing. The industry today can only test a tiny proportion of all the packs it produces. In some cases, as little as 0.03% of all the packs. And the reason for that is that the test that exists is destructive. Once you've tested a pack, you have to repack the product if you can and throw away the plastic packaging. Our technology will test 100% of packs produced and improves the probability of finding a failed pack by 11,000 times in comparison to today's industry standard. The sensor then, because it's printed into the packaging, can be imaged at any point in the supply chain by scanning it with a handheld device. And that information then can be used to aid decision making, whether that is to move the product for sale earlier or to potentially extend its life over time as well. So to conclude, the key features of the technology is that you can inspect every pack, you get results in real time, and the sensor reacts in milliseconds to changes in atmosphere. Because the sensor is printed into the packaging, you can get that information across the entire life of the product, and it produces valuable information and valuable data that can be used to help to optimize the supply chain. And the key benefits of this are obviously a reduction in food waste, a reduction in plastic packaging waste, improvements for the retailer because they have less product going off on their shelves. For their customers, they have less product going off in their fridges, and overall for retailers then an improvement in their brand reputation. And finally, we see the opportunity presented by our technology. We're substrate or packaging type agnostic, and we see that our technology has the potential to help in the introduction of biodegradable films by helping to monitor in real time how those films are performing. Thank you very much, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have later in the panel discussion.
Thanks very much, Brendan. Really appreciate that. Very exciting technology indeed. Now we move from Ireland across to the US, and I want to introduce Courtney Cook from Evigens. Courtney is a seasoned marketing business-to-business leader with over a decade experience in software as a solution, computer software, technology industries, and specializing in oil, gas, consumer products, and the retail sectors. An interesting fact about Courtney is that she has climbed over 25 of Colorado's 14ers. And for those of us outside the US, I had to look up as well, what is a 14er? 14er is a mountain peak of over 14,000 feet. So she's climbed 25 of them so far in her life. So that is a massive achievement. So Courtney, over to you, please.
Great. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up. hopefully?
We can, yes. Thank you.
I'm having issues sharing my slide deck as well, so we'll just kind of talk through this and go through it together. We can get the slides up to you guys later. But as Doug mentioned, I'm at Evigens. Our aim and vision is really to enhance product freshness and minimize food waste across the supply chain to make a more sustainable planet for everyone. So really, I think Moody's kind of touched on this. Brenda does not touch on this, especially in the US. There is no shortage of food waste here, especially when it comes to the cold chain and fresh produce and fresh products. So in the US, we obviously have a large amount of food waste. So 30 to 40% of the food supply is wasted annually here. And a large percentage of that is across the cold chain. So that's almost 23% of waste across the country. And 52% of that comes down to fresh produce. So there's obviously a massive amount of waste here that we are contributing to just in the US alone. So this comes down to challenges in the cold chain specifically. So spoilage, health and safety concerns, temperature control, all come into factors with how we manage food across the supply chain. And this happens at every stage from farm to fork. So highlighting it from the need to monitor and manage the food is significant. So inadequate tracking during transportation leads to significant waste of fresh produce. That's just one highlight. I wish I had slides here to show. I know Moody and I are in the same boat here, but it comes to life a little bit better if we can show the full picture. So bringing it back to the kind of the smart packaging. So Evigens is one solution of smart packaging. So we offer a sensor and a tracking temperature from farm to fork down to the retailer, the distributor, and even in the end consumer to monitor the entire supply chain. So maintaining optimal temperature conditions is vital for preserving freshness and also the shelf life here, and improving the traceability and enhancing food safety and consumer trust while mitigating food waste here, which is what we're talking about today. So smart packaging, smart labeling technology can be applied to various across the board categories: fresh produce, fresh meat, seafood, meal kits, ready to eat meals. All of these come down to how we're managing it from farm to fork down to the consumer and making sure that we are managing food waste. So I was going to put up a bunch of images around the various kind of technologies that are in the space right now. There's a lot. There's data loggers, there's TTIs, there are a lot of different applications here. So I want to focus on TTIs for a little bit. We offer TTIs. TTIs are a cost-effective and a scalable solution for monitoring freshness at the unit or case level. There's a lot of different traditional methods that are in the market right now. Data loggers are one of them that a lot of people have implemented in the past. They are expensive. They are hard to read. They have to be set back and forth. So there's a lot of additional costs here involved versus a TTI where a sensor is applied. It monitors it from the farmer, the grower, through the distribution center to the retailer to the end consumer. The biggest thing here with food waste is that consumers are all of us are the biggest offender of food waste. The biggest thing is we go off of the best by, use by, sell by date. We go off of smelling the product. We go off of looking at the product, which is very difficult. It doesn't take it the time and temperature across the supply chain that it gets to you into your end consumer house. So going down to reducing waste and making sure that we are taking all in the time and temperature in compliance and making sure that everything's up to speed. There's a lot that goes into it. And again, I wish I had my slides here to show the graphs here, but TTIs have definitely come into play. there's a lot here with the future of smart packaging. I think a lot of people are kind of sitting on the older mechanisms and the challenges around implementing those, which are extremely challenging with the commercializing side of things. But smart packaging and TTIs are they're set up for success in the future. There's a lot of advancements here. There's a lot of benefits with the enhancing food safety and quality. A lot of people come down to throwing food away because it's the best by, sell by, use by date, and things can obviously be extended in the shelf life, optimizing shelf life, extending shelf life. I know Brendan talked about this, Moody talked about this a little bit. And so it comes down to really kind of enhancing that and extending that, because there's a lot more that comes into play with the time and temperature, and TTI is taking all of that to effect. So I'm happy to have conversations after this. I think if I had the slides to share, everything would come full circle. But happy to share those slides.
We will share the slides, Courtney. And again, apologies to all the panelists here who've had problems with sharing the slides at the moment. So
no problem. I'm in marketing, so everything comes full circle, and I can speak to my graphs and visuals.
Thank you very much, Courtney. I really, really appreciate that immensely. So we now go from Colorado right down to, as the song goes, from the land down under, and New South Wales. And I really want to thank Greg for him staying up early into tomorrow morning. Greg is leading the connection between smart labels, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence. So I want to hand over to Greg from Fresh Chain in Australia to talk about his solution. Greg, you're on mute. No, not at the moment. Can't hear you. Okay.
How about now? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Well, can still hear me? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. And when I conclude this, I'm going to head out for a glass of wine. So I'll leave you all at the end of this. I'm going to try and share some slides. I'll see if that works. Can everybody see that? Can everybody see that?
Yep. Yeah, they're just coming up now. Thank you. If you just put them on full screen mode, then that would help us all with the size of it.
Full screen mode. I'll see if I can.
Or just zoom a little bit.
Okay. Is that any better?
Okay, let's continue forward with that, and then, as promised, we will send out a copy of the slides to everybody. Okay.
Okay. So here to talk about, obviously, what do we do around reducing food waste. Fresh Chain itself is a RegTech provenance and traceability platform. We work heavily in the agriculture sector. And so today really just wanted to chat about the opportunities to reduce, repurpose, and reimagine food waste. And one of the things for us that we've identified is that traceability is key to reducing food waste, because if you don't know where product is in the supply chain, it's very hard to make assessment for where it's gone wrong, how it's gone wrong, and how you might be able to fix it. And there's a number of ways you can track through the supply chain. Fresh Chain uses serialized and unique QR codes with a GS1 digital link on smart packaging, and we do that at all levels of packaging. So at unit, carton, crate, pallet, SSCC labels, etc., linking all that data with supply chain partners in the event of a recall or withdrawal, and I'll explain why that's really important. There's a number of devices and IoT solutions out there, as was mentioned before. Smart labeling plus cold chain devices work really well hand in hand in delivering opportunities to reduce waste, identify where things are going wrong in the supply chain, and then trying to actually do something about that. The other thing that I'd like to raise is it's really important, if you're going to do this as a community, that you can actually share data, extract that data, make sense of that data, and then share that data back. And so what we've found is really useful for companies heading down this path, particularly with smart labeling, is making sure that when you're encoding data, you're actually using global standards, maybe like a global GS1, or over here, a GS1 Australia. Because if you can do that, then you can share that traceability information with other supply chain actors. If you don't do that and you use proprietary standards, you might find yourself locked out being able to share up and down the supply chain, which then kind of defeats the purpose of sharing information seamlessly. I really just want to focus then on how end-to-end traceability, and really digital traceability is what we would recommend, can assist in the food waste challenge. Well, one of the things it can do is it can pinpoint spoilage, and that then allows potential product that's about to be chucked out to be repurposed. So in agriculture, if you have fruit and veg that's being shipped somewhere, and you're using either a IoT device or smart labeling, and you can predict based on temperature, humidity, light, shock, movement, ethylene, CO2, O2, that a load of goods are about to be rejected. If you use this technology, you might be able to divert that to a juicing facility, for instance. That's one way of reducing food waste, and it's what we do here as part of our solution. Another thing that's really important is efficient recalls. While we would all like to hope that that doesn't happen in our business, the fact is that every week there's a recall here in Australia. We've had some significant issues that have killed people, put consumers at risk, and then obviously has a massive impact on brand, on trust, not only here locally, but as we try to build our export footprint around the globe. And so it's the difference between having a recall where all stores across every state, across every DC has to be recalled, which is a significant impact right up and down the supply chain, to maybe one DC, limited number of stores, and then allows consumers to have confidence that they can buy again. And then the third way is optimizing inventory, making sure that you're using first in, first out from pack houses, from stores. That's another way to manage food waste. This is just one of the fresh chain sensors, and this can be in a pack house, it can be in a store, it can be in transit, where these devices actually manage temperature, humidity, light, as I was saying before, real-time alerts using GPS. And again, you can actually, with this linked to smart labeling, start to get predictive models around when a load is likely to be rejected at a DC, because some of those standards are very high. And if that's the case, not only do you have an opportunity to redirect and reuse, but if something does go wrong from an insurance point of view, you have an opportunity to actually say, well, hold on a second, when the product left our pack house, it was in great order. This is where it's gone wrong. I'll just finish with a couple of other slides in terms of smart labeling. This is what we call a serialized and unique QR code on pack. And a lot of food waste happens at home, much more than we realize. And if you ask 5 different people how you best store berries, you'd probably get 5 different answers. By using the smart labeling, you give access to consumers around sharing the best way to use this product if it's getting older, and how to store this so it actually maintains its shelf life. It also provides consumers other attributes about the product. But more importantly, you know, this digital age we live in, more and more people are scanning to find the information that they want. And then you start to show them how the product that they're buying, not only how to use that product and store that correctly, but that it's a verified product from the place they think they're buying it from. You share the harvest and pack date, you share how to store that product, and then you get item level feedback based on those other metrics and based how that product has traveled. And
Great.
Finally,
yeah,
sorry.
Are you able to conclude now? Because I know that we're running out of time.
Absolutely.
Okay?
So thank you
Yeah.
very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, Greg, listen, thank you very much. I know we've run a little bit over time here. We mixed it up a little bit with this format in that we wanted to show a little bit more solutions rather than opinions across the panel. But we will follow up with all of the questions and the Q&A offline after this session. But what I want to do now is hand back to Yves to introduce the third session. And thank you again to all of you on the panels today. Really appreciate your expertise and your knowledge.
Thank you.
Yves, you're on mute.
Well, we apologize a little bit to the panelists, also due to some technical issues. It took some more time than expected, but that's why no questions are possible at this very moment. But please, as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions about the technology or about any developments to one of the speakers, drop us a mail. Just you find our details on the website, and we will get you in touch with that respective speaker, of course. Now I'm being joined by Marcel van Rossum. Marcel van Rossum is also a diehard AIPIA board member. He has a very respectful career in the supply chain industry, being a supply chain director at Johnson & Johnson. Always good to tell to the audience he now started another part of his career, and we are very happy and proud of that. We are most pleased that Marcel is managing the next panel about supply chain efficiency. It's all about his topic. We hope, please, for all the introductions of the speakers, keep it short so there's time for questions. So, Marcel, on to you.
Thank you, Yves. And Yves, is there a hard stop? Because we're a little bit behind schedule, so please let me know. But thanks for having this opportunity. Also, I had the pleasure to meet all my panel members in advance. We had a brief discussion on different topics. And we are going to move a little bit into, and we heard the word quite often called supply chain. And if I ask 10 people what is supply chain, I get 10 different answers. And that's not a problem, but my definition is we plan things, we source things, we make things, we deliver things. And what you see more and more happening is that we need to return things. And here the sustainability kicks in. So the world I'm coming from, if I talk supply chain professionals, we had this linear thinking from an end-to-end supply chain perspective. And we are moving into this kind of circular thinking, where quite often also the supply chain needs to bring the things back, and where that sustainability topic has to be addressed. I have a panel of 6 experts, Peter Staal from Across Consult, Frits van den Bos from GS1, Clemens Sadlegger from Xaifu, Andreas Wolsner from Identiv, Christian Barden from Convoy CAC, and last but not least, Srihar Patnala from Systec. And I would like to start with asking a question to Peter. Peter, we see the regulations and the laws changing over time regarding packaging and waste. And one of the things which in our conversation came up is you said, okay, these are underestimated by the majority of us around the table. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on that? And how do you see new packaging technologies offering a way out here?
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. Yes, so I'm based in Switzerland, and we work, of course, in Switzerland, but also in the whole EU, but also outside Asia. So these developments in Europe are the toughest one in the world, I think. When we talk about the European Green Deal, the Farm to Fork strategy, the European soil policy, And now we have these regulations, the deforestation regulation, the packaging and packaging waste regulation. We have also the Food Drink Europe that also wants to go to digitalization for all the food products. So there is quite something on the move in Europe, but Europe is a kind of a reflective point for the whole of the world, I think. Also, when we speak with our client in Saudi Arabia or people that we work with in China, they always refer to Europe. So it's an important issue for the whole world, I think. But Europe takes the lead. And when I read through these directives and this packaging and packaging waste regulation, for example, that was published yesterday, I feel the need that is expressed by the European Commission and the European Parliament. And I think that it is very important to understand for everybody in the whole supply chain that there's a high urgency expressed in those regulations. It's not something that is easy done. It's not anything we make something nice and green and that's it. No, it's asked to go very much in detail and to solve real issues here. To be honest, when I hear a lot of people speaking, and also some of the other panelists did that before, we must involve the consumer. Yeah, that's true. That's true to a certain extent. We must educate them. But it's extremely different when I, in my own household, need to divide the different packaging in the supply chain, in the bins, several bins. Even for me as an expert in packaging, it's sometimes not so easy, let alone my wife or other people that are lay people. So I think the industry needs to find solutions here. And let's not forget, it's not only about packaging. When we look at the packaging and packaging waste regulation, suddenly there is a phrase about food waste. That was the topic that we had in the previous panel. There will regulations come. When we talk about soil, compostable gets more and more important. So we need to support, the industry needs to understand the urgency. Also, one thing not to forget, in the packaging and packaging waste regulation, it also writes a lot about potential hazardous substances in films, in plastics. Now, this is, of course, because of PFAS recently discovered, but it also anticipates, in my eyes, on microplastics and nanoplastics, which we all know that now more and more it also comes into our bodies and creates a health risk. So therefore, we, as Across Consult, we work through all the chain from packaging suppliers, food suppliers to retailers, and we try to develop products always that solve these problems as much as they can, but also solve the problem for the consumer. We are working with Royal Johan Enschede in the Netherlands to develop Collimetrics is the name of the project, to have every product individually tagged. We work with Keep It technology for intuitively see if a product is still fresh. We work with compostable packaging producers to get a higher barrier on their film so that it's more easy to start using compostable packaging and not have all these different types of plastics. So this is what we feel as a great urgency, Marcel, to
Thank you.
Communicate to everybody in the chain.
Okay, thanks. The next one I would like to move into is Frits van den Bos from GS1. Frits, we see an explosion in required data due to circularity, and which is expected to be on the plate of supply chain professionals. What is changing in this field, and how is GS1 contributing to this?
Yes, thank you, Marcel. Can you share the slides? Yes. GS1 is a not-for-profit organization that brings together about 2 million companies around the globe to work on more efficient supply chains. We started in 1974, are now 50 years active, and we see a challenge. We see that, sorry, I want to share my other slides. Just a sec. So we see new legislation coming up, and Peter already mentioned the packaging regulations, the deforestations. We also see the ESPR, that's the regulation that requires product passports for non-food products. And also the CSDD and the CSRD are regulations that force a lot of companies into reporting on sustainability. So where we as GS1 helped companies to become more efficient in their supply chain by collaborating and agreeing on identification and data sharing standards in the past in a linear setup, we see now that we have to go to the circular model, which has an impact on the amount of parties that are involved. So we have to move to upstream raw material and packaging suppliers, and we have to involve with users and recyclers on the other end of the spectrum. We also see that we have to move into batches and instances. So we have to identify not only the product, but we have to go deeper. And we have to facilitate new processes. We didn't think about recycling when we started in '74, but now we have to. And we have to think about new criteria to make the choices that lead up to a sustainable and efficient supply chain. So that's why we as GS1 started to work on this topic some years ago. And we set a goal. We set a goal that by 2027, we have to change the existing barcode into a QR code that can serve in the same way the stakeholders in the supply chain to collaborate. That's what we call the GS1 Digital Link URI. That's inside the barcode, which captured the numbers underneath the barcode and puts them into the QR code so that everybody can, with their app, direct to a certain source of data. If we've done that, we can connect the product data or the batch data or the instance data and make it available for all the actors in that circular model that need that data to make the right decision in their process. So we have to think about plastic types, about packaging types, about applied recyclability, origin, CO2 footprints, etc. That's where we currently are working on creating that data model to allow all these parties to interact with each other, because you can only make a supply chain circular if you work together. Retailers, manufacturers, packaging suppliers, consumers, recyclers, everybody has to bring in their expertise to make it work at the end. And that's what we currently are doing in a sustainability working group with about 200 worldwide leading retailers and manufacturers to set up that whole data set and work.
Thank
That's
you.
what I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, thank you, Fritz. I think what we see here is how we move from barcode to QR code and what to do with the data. And I think data is a main topic around what we also have heard in the previous panels. How do we capture the data? But it's not only how to capture the data, it's also what to do with the data, how to gain insights from that data. And last but not least, once we have the insights from the data, what kind of actions do we take? And I know that one of my panel members has a hard stop at within 12 minutes. So I would like to first move to Christian from Convey Keck. Christian, in our previous conversation, it was amazing to hear what's happening around the products which you are supporting, which are, I call it the beer kegs, but maybe you can introduce it a little bit yourself. But Christian is going to tell us a little bit about how much of these beer kegs we are losing and how much we are actually manufacturing more than we need to, which is also a sustainability topic in itself. Christian, please.
Thank you, Marcel. Yeah, first up, we are essentially just creating that visibility that people have talked about for the last hour and a half or so through the supply chain. And that visibility ultimately driving sustainability through that traceability of what happens to a beer keg being almost the original form of circular packaging. Apart from, because it's been around so long, we've probably taken our eye off the ball of how to really make that packaging work. So by using a device like I'm holding in my hand, which is a 5G enabled Internet of Things tracking device, we can put that technology onto pretty much any beer keg in the world in order to help create a better world, a world of draft beer. Why is that important? Well, we've probably got about 200 million kegs flying around this world at any moment in time. And frighteningly, we lose between 5 and 10% globally, which is a huge amount of money. But more worryingly, when you have to replace those kegs, comes with an enormous carbon footprint as well, just to replace those. That sort of pool of kegs that disappears each year or isn't being used or is sitting idle can amass to over 600,000 tons of carbon alone when we replace it, rather than genuinely knowing where it is, genuinely making that beer keg work harder for us, and, as we heard from some of our other colleagues, measuring the condition of that keg all the way through the supply chain to make sure that the consumer gets a great experience and there is less waste from that beer production as it travels through the supply chain to the pubs.
Christian, can you elaborate a little bit more? That's the hardware part. There's also, I call it the software part, the cloud part. What is Convoy Keg doing there?
Yeah, so that tracking device will measure location, it will measure temperature, and it picks up on key motion as well. As I said earlier, condition being so important to foodstuffs all the way through the supply chain. Location being fundamental to really understanding how your supply chain is working in order to right size and fit for purpose the route to market as well as the route from market. And then that motion element provides really important data on events that the keg might be going through, from being filled through to being emptied, or in a position where it might be at risk of being stolen, or the product being at risk of being spoiled because it's at a temperature that's too high for the beer that's being carried in it. So you put those things together, you present it in the cloud format, and you can start to see your opportunities to reduce miles, to reset up your infrastructure, your great routes to market, your underperforming routes to market, and also the bars and the pubs all over the world that are serving your beer brilliantly, as well as perhaps sub-optimally, which is only impacting consumer experience, which we've talked about so far today too.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
From beer, let's move to apparel industry, and Clemens Sadlegger from Xaifu. Clemens, you see that smart packaging is moving from pure track and trace into more how to deal with the regulations and how to close the loop in the products which you are serving. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company and the type of solutions? And what Clemens will help us understanding is we have hardware, we have software, and we are building product circularity platforms.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Marcel, and thanks for having me. Good morning and good afternoon. Great discussion and great panels already. And I think we have heard a lot about regulation. We have heard about different solutions. There's no time to wait, right? I think the clock is ticking, and I think we need to enable a circular economy, circular supply chains, enable them. And I think our credo is really, except for some FMCGs and for perishable goods, that recycling or shredding is really just the very last step in the action. I think specifically for apparel, the credo is to extend the life cycle and extend the lifetime of valuable goods, materials like electronics, apparel, and so on. So we believe that the technology is there, the components are there. We talked about regulation. We talked about, as Fritz mentioned, digital link. We have some of the elements there to really make it happen. And by leveraging all these elements, we can already build, and we're already building sustainability platforms. Sustainability platforms is not just about like a QR code and then linking the QR code to some landing page, but to associate the identity with the respective services. Like, where can I send it back? Where can I recycle it? What's the content? What's the materials? What's the components? And also, where can I probably resell and keep the item in the loop? And that requires, as we've heard, of course, some motivating the customers to return, make it super easy for the customers to use these services, so-called re-services, but also make it super simple for brands, for manufacturers to really use that platform. State-of-the-art technologies like cloud computing, like these QR codes and components, they're there, and you can have a tremendous amount of data to be stored and to be associated with the respective product. So that gives us a lot of data, as we've heard. That gives us a lot of opportunity to track and trace supply chains, to what extent goods are being returned, what's the content of recycled materials, what's the items being brought back into the chain. And that's a good thing. I think that creates the transparency. And with regulation moving forward, like creating digital product passport, there are lots of initiatives going on. I think GS1 is part of that initiative as well. Surpass, the Surpass initiative, for example, is already developing prototypes for the digital product passport, which is serving as a foundation for creating circularity and the associated services. Because the digital product passport, for example, is not just a definition of data and protocols. It's also, with the Green Deal, it's also setting the requirements for the amount of materials that need to be recycled, that needs to be kept in the loop and brought back. And just an example, what we see already today in the apparel market, the secondhand apparel market is actually bigger than the entire fast fashion market. So you can imagine what's the scale already happening today, and that's happening on flea markets, that's happening on upcoming platforms, secondhand platforms, the eBay, whatever. So that's happening already, and I think it requires even better and more platforms to make it even easier to provide and bring these used items you don't want, you have in your cabinet, you want to bring back and also monetize that, right? Even brands today, there is a huge market for secondhand apparel, for example. So brands usually are not able to leverage that because it's going, outside their chain and their channels. But now they can bring it back, leverage, up and cross sell items, and also do second sell the items a second time. With that direct connection between customer and brand, you create this direct channel between customer and brand, and can promote and cross-sell, and also add additional services like whatever, hiking routes for sports gear, right? So where the customer, where the client is, and can recommend associated services, hotels, leisure, and so forth. So
Clemens,
the technology is there, and there's no need to wait for anything.
Yeah, Clemens, thank you very much, and that's maybe a very nice bridge to Andreas Walsner from Identive. Andreas, we see, and it was mentioned also a little bit by Clemens, that there's, let's call it the fast fashion industry. Yeah, every so many weeks there's something new on the market. With Identive, you're looking to add value to these products and approach it from a more sustainable perspective. Can you please tell us a little bit more about what Identive is doing?
Yeah, thanks, Marcel, and Very good discussion. Thanks for being part of that great panel. So basically, maybe a short note on Additive. So we are a global leader in design and manufacturing of specialty UHF, HF, NFC, and BLE inlays. So basically, we're covering a very broad range for visibility, authentication, and sensing of everyday items. And if we, within our discussions, Marcel, we talked about how can technology basically help to increase sustainability across the supply chain. And there are kind of maybe also proceeding or building up what Clemens said is, one thing is, of course, kind of making sure that there is supply chain optimization from kind of the factory towards the consumer. And that can be done by item level visibility. We have done that, and retail is already kind of majority rolled out with UHF RFID. On the other side, there is in a kind of market, and Clemens touched base on this as well, in case there is a trend from maybe fast fashion towards more durable products, then we also kind of need to think about how kind of it makes sense for brands to maybe add value in a different way than just selling more product. And that could be adding digital value via services, for example, that are tied towards the product itself. And I would just touch base on both of these in a very short time. One is on the UHF part, knowing which item is when, at which location, and that in real time to arrange kind of efficient production and distribution of these products. That's basically the key of reducing waste already and basically increasing sustainability to an already existing supply chain. And then the other one would be, of course, the second one, how can basically brands and retailers increase their footprint or increase potential revenue streams by kind of going down or keeping the product output constant, and that is by kind of adding value digitally. Having said that, there are two ways. A, increasing, of course, the product quality so that users are or consumers are using it for a longer period of time. And then B, also treat the product as an asset, add digital services on top of that, and make it more, I would say, appealing for the consumer to keep interacting with the product throughout the life cycle. And the baseline for this is what I would say, authentication and a proof that the product is genuine, because that only enables you to further interact with it or kind of get additional services. And just to kind of close that maybe, in the past, yes, product information is fine, but what does the consumer actually want? And I think NFTs or access to offline and online experiences that are exclusive towards the owner, that's the key on kind of making both sides happy, right? It's collectibles, secondary property transfers that we're enabling, and also participation in security or circularity programs that in case you return a product, gives you a rebate. And all of that needs authentication at the very beginning. So this is why we, besides of kind of course, we are an NFC tag producer. These tags are kind of, that is what we see in the market, are being embedded into products, will stay there throughout the life cycle and act as a product-specific interaction point for consumers to directly interact with the brands.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Thank you very much. Last but not least, Shriyat Patnala from Systec. Systec, a company who's doing a lot in supply chain visibility. Shriyat, can you elaborate a little bit more on the end-to-end supply chain journey of a product and how Systec is contributing with solutions? Because you do a lot in this field already for a long time.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel, and thank you for all the panelists and the folks that joined the webinar as well. So just on the Systec is a leader in the digital identity traceability solutions. We also do the product authentication solutions, but maybe a little bit more on the topic to begin with. So the way I look at the sustainability is, Europe is leading for sure, but it's a global problem. We know that for sure, right? So there's a lot of reports saying that we are approaching to the point of inflection where there's point of no return, which is pretty sad to hear. And then also, hopefully, we will be taking all the technologies and commercial things aside, that there's going to be a pointed effort from everyone. Now, I look at the sustainability initiative. The complexity is not just in the technology, although this panel is about technology, but also in the overall change management. Change management is key in to achieve the sustainability goals. There are scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. Scope 1 and 2 is more in the hands of the organization itself, and that itself is a difficult and complex to implement as a change management. But if you go to scope 3, which you are depending on your vendors to implement the sustainability, their goals, and then trying to make sure they adhere to it, it's even bigger problem. So it's pretty complicated to be able to get to the goals that we all are setting ourselves. And so it's pretty responsibilities involved. The way the traceability comes into the picture is, if you're trying to talk about the scope 3 emissions, especially, your procurement of raw materials all the way to the point where products are going into the end consumer you need to be able to have complete visibility on what is the carbon footprint in not only the procurement, manufacturing, the process that goes inside supply chain to the point it goes to in the hands of the customer, right? So that would be where technology plays into the role beyond the change management. You want to be able to make the right decisions, of course, from procurement point of view. But in order to make the right decisions, you need the data. You need to have the right data, right digital technologies in your hand, and whether to identify the right raw materials, as part of the manufacturing practices, implementing the automation, and then making sure that even as simple decisions like if you're doing a tamper-evident labels, do you do plastic? Do you have other means of doing the tamper-evident, or do you have other digital means to achieve the same end goal? So these are the things that we hope companies are looking more deeply in order to make sure they truly are sustainable. Now, where the traceability comes into the picture is where we play a big role in Systech. We offer the serialization and traceability solution. So we can identify the items, whether it's a process side or inside the factory or outside the factory, all the way to the consumer. We have the complete end-to-end digital traceability technologies, which captures the data from the packaging to the supply chain and in the hands of consumer. So technologies like that would allow you to able to get the monitor, report, and at the same time mitigate, right? So you need to get the data first. So traceability solutions will allow you to get the data, not only about the carbon footprint, but the journey it is taking, the product is taking all the way to the end consumer. Once you know what it is doing, then what's next? And then you go into the traceability analytics to figure out where do you make the changes in order to get to the goals that you're trying to get to, or which vendors that you need to work with, or which third parties that you need to work with to reduce the overall carbon footprint. So that's where Systech provides value in our end-to-end traceability solutions. And I'll put the link over there. I know we didn't have time for presentation, but I'll put the link over there so you guys can look at the variety of solutions we do. And then the next up is also in the product authentication. Product authentication, previously, Andreas mentioned about some of the technologies they provide, and very similar in our case, except we do non-additive. As a result, what that means is that we're not going to be embedding anything inside the packaging. We can take the existing barcodes and able to create the digital unique fingerprint, able to identify the authenticity of the product. Again, every small bit helps. So overall, I would probably summarize and say, whether it's a data analytics platform, which we have, which will get the insights from your packaging as well as the supply chain and able to provide some insights, or complete end-to-end traceability platform, or product authentication, or the decisions you make, even as simple as identifying the right vendor that has the less hardware footprint, even that matters, right? So all of them adds up to the overall end-to-end digital traceability.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sridhar. We spent on all kind of different topics. We are, and I heard it from Yves, over time. 6 panelists with a lot of input. I think there's much more to be discussed around these topics. I would like to conclude that one of the things which Riyad also said, a lot of what is coming up to us is right now has to do with change management from that perspective. I don't know if we have 1 more minute for reflection of the panel, Yves. If not, you have to let me know. But any of the panelists who would like to have a last view on what we just discussed as a team?
Well, I started. Maybe I can conclude. I'm not sure if you admit me to, but so
Please go ahead, Peter.
For all the panels, for this panel and the other panels, the pitches are interesting and the products and the ideas are very good, and I can only ask to proceed in those ideas. But I miss a discussion about how do we get the things moving, because the world is stuck. And we need to do something. We need to involve the consumer. We need to convince the industry, the food retailers, and that is the tough part. And I missed a bit of discussion about that. Maybe this can be an idea for next webinar with AIPIA to how to get that moving with all the beautiful ideas that have been presented.
Well, Peter, thanks for that remark, and I will hand over it to Yves. But I think the starting point is this webinar brings new thoughts to this topic, and I think it's a starting point. And Yves, from our side, please take it over. Peter, Fritz, Clemens, Andreas, Sridhar, thank you very much. And Christian already left for his next meeting, but great to have you in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thanks a lot.
Marcel. Well, I agree with the last remarks. Marcel wrapped it up very nicely indeed. Sustainability and smart packaging is an upcoming, very fast-moving industry. The smart packaging industry is working very hard to come up with new technologies for sustainability. What we tried here is to have a first message from the smart packaging industry. Look what we do, look what we can do, look how many people are here to work on the sustainability topic. To be honest, when we announced this webinar among our speakers, we had around 70 applications to speak or to present or to contribute to this webinar, which means there is a lot of interest from this industry to do something about it. We had some issues with technology, which is fine. I'm sure we had a good start of this topic in the smart packaging industry. To wrap it up in very short, in a few words, engagement and consumer engagement, educate, supply chain engagement, work more together, sharing data, use new technologies to fight food waste. The last one from Sridhar is an interesting one, which is change management. This is a supply chain issue because indeed change management is needed if we want to adapt and all those new technologies. So I'm wrapping it up. I would like to thank our good friends and partner at AWA to make this happen. I would like to thank the moderators, Doug and Marcel, very much for your support and help. And of course, the 16 panelists. The video of this whole Congress webinar is available on the same platform. So please, anyone who missed anything, go there. Send us mails, or if you want to get in touch or get more information on the technology or development, send us a mail. We'll get you in touch with the right speaker. The good thing is we are also organizing live events, which we like to do, because there we meet, more discussion is possible, and we can have a cup of coffee meanwhile when we meet. We have 2 live events planned, one in Chicago, the Smart Labeling Conference, which will take place at Label Expo in Chicago, which is September 8 and 9. Anyone interested, please let us know. It's on our website if you like to join us there. And then, of course, November 18 and 19, we have the famous IPR World Congress in Amsterdam, where this whole industry meets brands and users of these technologies. The World Congress in Amsterdam will also be the meeting place for the first meeting of the Smart Food Chain Consortium. So thank you very much all again. This was a good begin of an important topic in the smart packaging industry, sustainability. I wish you all a good day. Again, please feel free to come back to us. And any one of you who didn't join IPI yet, go to our website. You can join us for free, and then you're part of the community. Thank you again all. See you soon. Bye-bye.